CCTV caught him pulling up outside a pub in May last year. Inside, he shot 23-year-old Mark Short and attempted to murder 3 other men. And this is Cregan throwing a grenade at a house. Minutes earlier, he'd murdered David Short in a gun and grenade attack.
Police emergency. Someone just threw a big concrete slab through my back window and ran off.
He sounds relaxed as he lies about an attempted burglary to draw the police to his hideout.
I'll try and get up there as soon as, if there's a possibility he's still knocking about. All right then, thanks very much. Okay. I'll be waiting.
PC's Fiona Bone and Nicola Hughes were unarmed when they responded to the call on the outskirts of Manchester. As the female officers walked up to the house, Dale Cregan opened the door and opened fire with a Glock handgun. He fired 32 shots within 31 seconds. Then, before driving off, he threw a hand grenade as the women lay bleeding.
32 shots, 31 seconds. One hand grenade detonated on a quiet residential street in broad daylight. 2 women, in uniform, on duty, doing their jobs, cut down at a front door they never should have been sent to alone. One dies at the scene. The other makes it to hospital. She doesn't make it out. Both of them are gone before midday. 10:53 in the morning, Abbey Gardens, Hattersley, a quiet cul-de-sac in Greater Manchester. 2 unarmed female police officers had walked toward that front door on a routine call, a reported burglary, nothing that would make either of them hesitate, nothing that would make either of them afraid. And the man who pulled the trigger had been arrested for murder 4 months earlier, interviewed, processed, released on bail. Greater Manchester Police had already had Dale Cregan in a room. They had looked at him. They had made a decision. And 2 of their own officers walked into the trap he built while he was free. Welcome to True Crime Page. This is where we go beyond the headlines, into the cases that fracture communities, destroy families, and force us to ask questions that don't have comfortable answers. We give voice to the victims. We follow the evidence wherever it leads. If you are new here, subscribe now and join us. Every case we cover properly. No shortcuts. Now, let's get into it. Fiona Bone was 32 years old, engaged to be married, a life fully ahead of her. Nicola Hughes was 23, a probationer, still in the early months of a career she had chosen deliberately because she wanted to serve her community. Neither of them had any reason to believe that morning would be different from any other. It was. The night before, September 17th, 2012. While Fiona and Nicola were at home, Dale Cregan was making preparations. He moved into a house on Abbey Gardens, a quiet family home on that quiet cul-de-sac. The family inside had no warning, no choice. He took them hostage, overnight. The following morning, he allowed the father to leave for work. One condition: contact the police, and his family dies. The father left, said nothing, and Cregan settled in. He spent that evening drinking beer, completely calm. He already knew what the morning held. He already knew it was his last night of freedom, and he was celebrating it. September 18th, 2012. Morning. Cregan picks up a phone and dials 999. He reports a broken window, a burglary, routine, deliberately routine. Nothing in that call triggers an armed response. Nothing in that call suggests anything other than 2 officers and a front door. The call is routed to dispatch. 2 officers are assigned to attend. Fiona Bone, Nicola Hughes. Neither is given any information that would make them hesitate. Neither is told to wait for backup. Neither is armed. They drive to Abbey Gardens. They get out of the car. They walk toward the front door. 10:53 in the morning. They are steps from the door when it bursts open. Cregan is already firing. A Glock pistol fitted with an extended magazine. 32 shots, 31 seconds. Fiona Bone takes a fatal wound beneath her body armor. She falls at the door. She doesn't get up. Nicola Hughes is hit 8 times. Her spinal cord is severed. She is shot in the head. She makes it to hospital. She doesn't make it out. Then, Cregan throws the grenade, an M75, on a residential street in broad daylight in Britain. For the first time in British history, 2 female officers had been killed together on duty. For the first time in British history, a hand grenade had been used as a murder weapon on mainland soil. 2 records. Neither of them should exist. 1 hour later, Dale Cregan walks into Hyde Police Station. Calmly, no hesitation. He approaches the desk and says 5 words. "I've done 2 coppers." He was never running. The surrender was always the plan. That is how Greater Manchester Police came to have Dale Cregan in custody. Not through 50 raids, not through a £50,000 reward, not through weeks of searching. He walked in, on his terms, when he was ready. Because the murders of Fiona Bone and Nicola Hughes were never meant to be an escape. They were meant to be a statement, and walking into that police station was the final part of it. To understand what happened at Abbey Gardens, you have to understand the man who planned it. Dale Cregan, born 1983, Droylsden, Greater Manchester, a terraced house on Greenside Lane. His father, a tool setter, left the family. By his early 20s, he was moving cocaine, claiming £20,000 a week in profit, while officially listing his occupation as a plasterer. The lifestyle he built around that money was deliberate, constructed. Mercedes 4x4, business class flights, Thailand, Antigua, Amsterdam, gym every morning, cocaine every night. He wanted people to see it, every part of it, and they did. Quietly, alongside all of it, he was assembling something else, approximately 10 firearms, including machine guns. This was infrastructure. But there was one thing about Dale Cregan that people noticed before anything else. Before the money, before the reputation, the eye. His left eye was missing. He was known across Tameside by one name. One eye. His version of how he lost it. A knuckle-duster fight in Thailand. A brawl that got out of hand. Greater Manchester police investigators did not believe that, when they examined the socket, there was no scar tissue. None. That is not consistent with a fight. That is consistent with something deliberate. Investigators believed rival gangsters had removed it with a knife. He wore a false eye to replace it. Black, mismatched. Unsettling in a way that was difficult to explain. And while he sat in prison, a rival gang placed a bounty on his remaining eye. £20,000 for the one eye he had left. Before any of the 2012 murders, police already knew exactly who Dale Cregan was. They described him as a ruthless and intimidating lead player in the criminal underworld. He controlled local drug flows through fear, through the constant, implicit certainty that violence was always available to him. Always. By 2012, Dale Cregan was already a man the police knew about, feared, and were watching. What they did not do was stop him. And that decision would cost 4 people their lives. To understand the first 2 murders, you have to go back further. Not to 2012, to 2001. 2 families, both known to police, both embedded in the criminal landscape of Greater Manchester, the Shorts and the Atkinsons. Cregan was allied with the Atkinsons. It started small, a stare down, a minor assault, the kind of thing that gets forgotten, or festers. This one festered. Across years it escalated, slowly, then sharply. Then in 2008, a truce, an uneasy one, but it held. For 4 years it held. May 2012, a football celebration. Teresa Atkinson, the Atkinson matriarch, is there. So is Raymond Young, a Short family associate. Something is said, a bottle is thrown. He slaps her. That is the moment. That single moment, in a pub on an ordinary evening, is where 4 murders begin. Teresa Atkinson pulls out her phone. texts her son, Leon. Get revenge. Leon calls Dale Cregan. And here is what has to land before this story goes any further. Cregan had no direct grievance with the Short family. None. This was not his feud. These were not his enemies. He chose to insert himself, voluntarily, into a dispute that was not his and made it the reason 4 people would die. 25th of May, 2012. The Cotton Tree Pub, Droylsden, Greater Manchester. A Saturday night. Mark Short was 23 years old, an amateur boxer, a father. His child was still young. He was in the pub that night with his father David and a group of friends. Outside, Cregan was already there, waiting. With him, Luke Livesey and Damien Gorman, known as Scarface, balaclava on, self-loading pistol loaded. They had been watching the pub, watching who was inside, waiting for the moment. Cregan walks in, opens fire. Mark Short is shot dead in his father's arms. David Short holds his son and watches him die. 3 other men are wounded. A 4th narrowly survives. Cregan walks back out, gets into a stolen car. Gone. June 2012. Greater Manchester Police arrest Dale Cregan. They bring him in. They interview him, and then they release him on bail. A man who had just shot dead a 23-year-old father in a pub full of witnesses, back on the streets of Greater Manchester, on bail. David Short just buried his son, and what he did next made everything worse. He threatened Cregan directly. The threats were not vague. Cregan heard every word. He processed them, and he began to plan. Before we get into what Cregan does next, and what he does next is the part that even seasoned investigators found difficult to process. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet, hit that button right now. Every case we cover here is verified, detailed, and told the way it deserves to be told. Subscribe and turn the bell on, because this story is about to get significantly darker. August 10th, 2012. Folkestone Road East, Clayton. David Short's home. Cregan was technically on bail. He was not hiding, not lying low, not waiting to see how things unfolded. He was planning. He assembled a team. Anthony Wilkinson, 2 Glock pistols, and something else. Something that had never been used in a murder on mainland Britain before. An M75 hand grenade. They move on David Short outside his own home. He sees them coming, runs inside. They follow him into his own house. They shoot him at least 9 times at close range. And he is still alive when Cregan produces the grenade. He detonates it on David Short's dying body. Then, a second grenade, thrown at a nearby house. No one is killed. But that is not the point. The point is the message. There are no limits. There are no lines. There is nothing Cregan will not do. He told a prison psychiatrist what that night felt like. His exact words. The night I shot David Short, I had the best sleep of my life. September 17th, 2012. Then came the Abbey Gardens incidents, which he voluntarily submitted himself to the authorities. Preston Crown Court, February 2013. What it took to put one man on trial. 9 co-defendants alongside Cregan. Scaffolding erected outside the courthouse to position armed officers. Police snipers in nearby buildings, watching, waiting. Every single day, a convoy. 2 prison vans, police cars, motorcycle outriders, a helicopter overhead. 120 Greater Manchester police officers deployed daily. Cregan's position at the start of proceedings, not guilty, across every charge. Then, February 12th, 2013, he changes his plea on the police officer murders, guilty. May 22nd, 2013, he changes his plea on the Short family murders, guilty. No trial needed, no jury. He admitted everything, after £5 million had already been spent. Mr. Justice Holroyd addressed the court. He did not reach for complicated language. He did not need to. Premeditated savagery, multiple planned murders, firearms, military-grade grenades, the deliberate targeting of public servants sent to help. June 13, 2013. Whole life order, 4 counts of murder. Dale Cregan will never be considered for parole. He will die in prison. The sentence was handed down, the courtroom emptied, and the questions began. Questions that a whole life order cannot answer, cannot touch. Dale Cregan was arrested in June 2012. After the murder of Mark Short, he was interviewed. He was released on bail. He then killed the David Short. He killed Fiona Bone. He killed Nicola Hughes. 3 people dead. 3 people who would be alive. If that bail decision had gone differently, that is not comfortable. It was never going to be comfortable, but it is the truth. After Abbey Gardens, call handling protocols were reviewed, reformed, directly because of how Fiona, Bone, and Nicola Hughes had been dispatched, without adequate information, without armed support, without any indication of what was waiting behind that door. The case triggered a national debate about armed response thresholds, about officer safety, about what information dispatchers owe the officers they send into the unknown. Changes were made, too late for Fiona, too late for Nicola, but made. And then there is the cost that never appears in any official report. One officer who responded to the scene at Abbey Gardens later died by suicide. P.C. Hughes' father spent years campaigning publicly for police officer safety. Years. Fiona Bone's family have spoken of a loss that does not get smaller, does not soften, does not go away. Dale Cregan today. Transferred to Ashworth Hospital, a maximum security psychiatric facility in Merseyside. December 2025. Moved under heavy armed police escort to Aintree University Hospital. A medical appointment for his remaining eye, the same eye. A rival gang had placed a £20,000 bounty on destroying. As of early 2026, he remains at Ashworth. No prospect of release, ever. Fiona Bone was 32 years old, engaged to be married, a life fully ahead of her. Nicola Hughes was 23, a probationer. She had chosen this career deliberately because she wanted to serve, because she believed it mattered. She had barely begun. Neither of them knew the call they were attending was a trap, built specifically for them, by a man they had never met. Neither of them had any reason to believe that the door they were walking toward was the last door they would ever approach. Dale Cregan wanted to be remembered. He wanted the notoriety. He wanted 4 murders and a whole life order to mean something. In the world he came from. What it actually means is that Fiona Bone and Nicola Hughes never got to live their lives. A family was held hostage in their own home, so he could use their front door as a killing ground. And he will spend every remaining year of his life in a secure psychiatric facility, watching nothing, going nowhere. That is the full story. If this case stayed with you, hit the like button, subscribe if you are not already here, and leave a comment. Because these stories deserve to be talked about, not buried, not forgotten. There is another case already waiting, another name, another story that deserves the full telling. We will be back.